Every day, I learn a new fact that scares the crap out of me when it comes to climate. So this is in Axios. A new study says a key Atlantic Ocean circulation could shut down by mid-century. So here's a little picture of it here, the way the circulation works in the Atlantic. It's actually really interesting. A key element driving the Atlantic Ocean may dramatically slow down and then turn off completely during the next few decades, a new study finds. The circulation, known as the Atlantic Meridional Overturning Circulation, or the AMOC, includes the Gulf Stream, part of a global conveyor belt that moves water around the world. The AMOC helps to regulate everything from the rate of sea level rise on the East Coast to Europe's average temperatures. A sudden shutdown of this ocean current, which the new study shows could occur during mid-century or between 2025 and 2095, was part of the plot of the 2004 disaster film, The Day After Tomorrow. Do you guys remember that movie? We're literally now bringing about, in reality, day after tomorrow stuff. The research published Tuesday in the journal Nature Communications uses statistical methods to tease out early warning signals of an AMOC collapse, including a slowdown in the current and increasing variability. The findings also suggest the shutdown may happen sooner than previously thought and perhaps within many people's lifetimes. A breakdown would likely be potentially irreversible and would mark a major tipping point, critical thresholds in Earth's climate system that, when crossed, will usher in severe changes. Climate models indicate that an abrupt stop could trigger extreme cooling across parts of the northern hemisphere. Rainfall patterns around the world would be disrupted, and major floods and storms would increase, leading to further sea level rise in the North Atlantic basin, among other effects. They say, when they talk about extreme cooling, and I saw this in a different article on the same topic, they say that in like the UK, for example, Northern Europe sort of area, that would go into extreme cooling. Now, I'm sure if/when that happens, you'll have the conservatives turn around and say, "What? I thought it was global warming, and look, there's massive cooling going on here." No, the reason why they changed the terminology to climate change is to be more accurate, because the fact of the matter is, even though the trend over time is warming, and that line is very clear, the climate truly is warming, the weather even is warming, it's true that you're going to have all sorts of issues pop up with severe weather on both ends of the spectrum. And this is one of those things. As a direct result of climate change, this circulation could stop, and then you'll have some places that get super freaking cold. Totally haywire. Our system's gone totally haywire. We're talking about drought. We're talking about famine. We're talking about wars over water. We're talking about some places you can't even live. We're talking about increased extreme weather events. The list goes on and on. While the precise effects of a collapse aren't fully understood, scientists believe it would have vast socioeconomic consequences for tens of millions of people, acutely impacting coastal cities, agriculture. That's terrifying. If it's going to affect our agriculture, how do we know everything's going to be okay where we could feed everybody? Fish populations and marine ecosystems. Detailed observations of this circulation pattern via modern instruments are relatively short. The study notes the scientists extended records further back in time by using sea surface temperatures to shed light on trends. The authors also noted they couldn't rule out overlooked or undiscovered mechanisms not reflected in their assessment. The AMOC is a system of ocean currents that transport water and heat between the Southern Ocean and the far North Atlantic Ocean in a years-long cycle that influences weather patterns in both hemispheres. The currents are driven by differences in water density regulated by changes in temperature and salt concentration. As warm water flows north along the ocean's surface, it becomes denser as evaporation increases, salinity levels and temperatures decrease, making it sink deeper. It then slowly spreads southwards before rising from the ocean's depths in the Southern Ocean in a process known as upwelling, thereby completing the circuit. Previous studies have shown that the already slow-moving series of ocean currents is likely further weakening due to human-caused climate change, which is accelerating ice melt in Greenland. This increases the volume of lighter fresh water entering the North Atlantic. The study's conclusions run contrary to the most recent report from the UN IPCC, which found an AMOC shutdown is very unlikely to occur this century. Michael Mann, a climate scientist at the University of Pennsylvania who has published studies on the slowing AMOC but was not involved in the new research, said he questions some of the methods the new study uses. Nevertheless, he finds its conclusions plausible. Quote, "I think the authors in this case are onto something real. We could be talking decades rather than a century." Every time I see a story on climate change, it's always like, well, this is worse than what we thought the worst case scenario was going to be. Every single time. I mean, we just had, it may have eclipsed 100 degrees in the ocean by Key West, Florida, which would be a world record. If that's, we're shattering temperature records everywhere. Rome just had a new record temperature. We've had extreme flooding in places like in like northwestern New York. There was just a whole bunch of extreme flooding. We have the wildfires, which are out of control and worse than ever. We have all these things, and every single time I read an article, it's like, this is worse than what we thought the worst case scenario would be. So based on that, I tend to lean more in the direction of the study that, like, this thing is going to happen, and it's going to happen relatively soon, and who knows what else this will lead to. And like I said, the fact that this is like, hey, part of this was day after tomorrow. And of course, day after tomorrow is traumatized. No shit. But also, like, really? We're even having a conversation about some of those things might happen? Whew, that is wild. That is wild. Yeah, I don't know, man. I think we should maybe do something about this. Or we could keep debating it, and we could have a whole cottage industry based on mucking up doubt that this is even a problem, and we can drag our feet until we reach oblivion. We could do that too. I don't know, that just seems like a bad idea to me. Hey y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.